Hello and welcome back, my little birdies, for another wonderful drawing tutorial from me, Miss Birds. And today we are actually going to be drawing a face, but not just any face, a realistic face, okay? Now the thing is, when people are trying to draw faces, there are a lot of things that they do wrong. And so we're gonna go through this drawing tutorial, how to draw the face, and we're gonna learn how to draw the face correctly, okay? What we're gonna do is we're going to start out with just a general shaped face, okay, just very basic. And then I'm gonna show you different ways of how you can change that to be either male or female or to look a certain way, okay? It's very important to understand that there are distinctions between a male face and a female face. And there are just some common rules or general rules that we look at when we're drawing faces that are either male or female. There's certain things that we do differently on a male than we would a female, and vice versa, just by their general anatomy and structure, okay? So what you're going to need today is a blank piece of paper. You will need a pencil with an eraser, okay? Make sure you have a good eraser. And if you want, you can use a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, it's not a big deal. It's not the end all be all of this project if you don't have a ruler. A lot of it I'm just gonna be doing by spatial proximity, which means I'm going to be estimating or guessing where certain things should be spread apart from one another or where they should be placed on the face. And that I kind of just do naturally, and over time, after you guys practice a lot, you'll really understand how to do that on your own. If you're really worried about things being perfect, you can use a ruler, but it's not necessary. You do not have to. Okay, so I'm using this whole sheet of paper, and actually what you could do is you could make it just a half sheet of paper. So I would like to go through and do kind of like a male and a female face with you guys. And so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this whole sheet of paper and I'm gonna fold it in half, okay? So you can see right now it's a vertical, right? It's going up and down, and I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna fold it, make sure that my lines are pretty much exactly the same. And just going to fold it in half. And I think I'm actually gonna leave my paper like this. I was gonna kind of rip it in half, but honestly, if it's like this, that'll be fine because we can draw a face on this side, and then you can also draw a face on the other side. It's always good to try and, you know, conserve paper and use what you can where you can. So there you go. All right, so the first step in drawing a face is to first just start with a circle. Now, the reason why we start with a circle is because if you actually look at your head, or if you even just place your hands on the back of your head, you'll notice that the shape of your head is actually rounded, right? It's not flat at all. So we always want to make sure that we're starting with a circular shape. Our face is just going to be facing forward, but the circle is what we really use to get our face started, okay? You don't want to draw it super teeny tiny, okay? We want to take up a big amount of space. The circle that I'm going to draw is going to be about this big. The top of our circle is going to be the very top of our head, not where your hairline is, right? Or where your bangs start, but it's actually the very top of your head. So I'm going to draw a pretty large circle. And a little tip that I like to use, or the way I like to do circles, is just kind of by moving my hand into the rhythm. So I kind of just make a circular motion with my hand. Notice I'm not putting anything down on my paper, but I'm kind of just getting my arm or my hand into the motion of creating a circle, into the groove. And once I feel like I have a really nice groove going, then I'm going to go through and put my circle down on my paper. Now, when you guys are drawing, you want to make sure, again, you always draw lightly. For the sake of this presentation, just so you can see it better on screen, I'm just going to darken some of my lines a little bit. So I'm going to go through and just kind of darken my lines. I'm still trying to draw lightly, but just so that you guys can see what it looks like on screen, I'm just going to go through and make those lines a little bit darker. If you're really worried about creating a perfect circle, you could always try and find something that has a rounded bottom to it to use as like a template, right? But it's always nice if you just kind of learn in general how to create your own circle just by using a little technique like that. It's not going to be exactly perfect, right? My circle's not exactly perfect, but that's okay because it's generally perfect. On my paper, I did do my circle a little bit higher. Normally I'd do it a little bit lower, but for the sake of this demonstration, I think it's going to be fine. Okay, so once you've created your circle, and remember, you're going to make sure you draw lightly. We're going to have a lot of construction lines when we're creating this face. And a construction line is basically just a line that pretty much helps us structure where certain things on our face are going to go. But a lot of them are going to end up being erased out because we don't want to see lines all over our face, right? That's not going to look realistic. So that's why you always want to make sure that you're drawing lightly, especially with the construction lines that we make, because again, you're going to be erasing them out, right? So I have this circle, and what I want to do now is I want to create a line going vertically, right, up and down through my circle halfway, right? So it's going to just kind of split my line in half, or my circle in half. And then I'm going to create another construction line cutting the circle in half, but going horizontally. Just like that, okay? Again, you want these cross lines to be drawn very lightly because we're gonna be erasing a lot of them out, okay? Basically all of the lines we're gonna be erasing out. So draw it light, okay? Don't draw it too dark. Okay, our next step is to just take our fingers, and at this point, if you wanna use your ruler to measure, you can also use your ruler. I just take my index finger and my thumb, and I am looking at the bottom half. So I'm going from the center of my circle where my lines are intersecting and to the bottom of my circle, and I'm kind of just measuring that space. And then I'm gonna bring it down and mark it where my thumb is. So again, I'm taking my index finger and my thumb from the very center of where my lines are intersecting in my circle to the bottom of my circle here. I'm taking that space, right? I'm just measuring it. I'm not going like this, but I'm taking that whole space from the center of the circle to the bottom of the circle and just moving it down, okay? And then creating a very small little line here. It doesn't have to be that dark, but that's really going to help us identify where the bottom of our face is going to be. So this is actually going to be our chin, okay? So our chin is going to end up here. Okay, the next step is we're gonna take from the side of our face, so this area right here, and we're gonna kind of bring it down and then in a little bit. Okay, so that's what's gonna give us our nice face shape. Now, people have different shaped faces, right? So again, please just keep in mind that this is just generally how you would draw a face. But of course, when you are trying to create a portrait of somebody else or trying to create a self-portrait of yourself, you really want to make sure that you're looking at where the lines curve, how long the lines are, where they end up, because everybody's face is different based on small little differences and details, right? So of course, again, we're just creating a general face. But again, if you were to be drawing somebody very specific, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the lines of their face and where their face starts to curve in or curve out, you know, all of those small details, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just start from my left side here, and I'm just going to kind of bring that line down a little bit and then curve it inward or create kind of like a diagonal inward. Again, you can see that I'm drawing very lightly on my paper because if I make any mistakes, I wanna be able to erase them without seeing the lines underneath. Okay, so again, I'm taking from the side almost to where that halfway point is, bringing that line down, figuring out where I kind of started to curve my line here because of course your face is going to be generally symmetrical, meaning that what we have on one side, we pretty much have the same exact thing on the other. So we want our lines to kind of match up, right? So I know that my line is going to start curving in about right here. Take these lines down a little bit, and there we go. So now I've kind of generally created the shape of my face. Now, I'll tell you one thing. When you are creating faces, right, I told you there's a difference between what we would have or what we draw for a male face than a female face. So when it comes to the general outlining of a face, males tend to have a more angular jawline. So their jawlines tend to be a little bit more angular, meaning that they kind of course, it's not going to come to a very strong point, right, because all of our faces are generally curved, but it's going to have a lot more straighter lines to it. Whereas if you're drawing a female face, it's going to be a lot softer. So I wouldn't have lines down here that are as pronounced, right? Men tend to have more what they call chiseled jawlines that are more defined, and females tend to have more rounded jawlines, rounded chins, rounded cheekbones, okay? So you can start to draw your face how you'd like. I'm gonna draw mine male. And actually, it's probably best if you also draw yours male at first, and then for our next demonstration on the back, we'll do a female, okay? So start with the male, making sure that the jawline is very angular, right? Very angular, has curves to it. Okay, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna erase out my horizontal line here. I'm going to keep my line in the center. And for my line that's going vertically in the center, I'm just going to bring it down a little bit so that it goes through the whole entire face. And for the bottom of my circle where it's meeting my jawline all the way under, I'm going to erase that out. So again, this is why you always want to make sure that your lines are drawn lightly. Remember, you can always go back in and darken those lines at the very end when you know exactly what you want your face to look like. But until then, it's always best just to make sure that when you're drawing, you keep everything very light. Okay, it may look like some of my lines are a little bit darker on my page, but really I'm just doing that again so that it's easier for you guys to see. Okay, so this is the start of our male face, okay? And we are going to take the horizontal line that we had initially, and I'm gonna move it down so that it's in the center of my whole face, right? This is the top of my head, this will be the bottom or the chin area. And what I wanna do is I wanna create a horizontal line going directly in the center, intersecting with my vertical line. Right, so like when two lines cross like that, means they're intersecting. And there we go. Okay, so we're gonna stop here for today. Go ahead and start perfecting your lines a little bit. Make sure your initial construction lines are erased, and make sure that this is what you have at the end, okay? So you should have the face fully formed, okay? We can see a little bit of the jawline here where we're angling down. You can see our chin area and the top of the head, okay? You should still have your construction line vertically going down the center of your face, and you should have created a new construction line that's going horizontally through the face at the midway point that's intersecting with that vertical line, okay? So we're gonna, again, like I said, stop here today. And when we come back, our next lesson is going to be about starting to put in some of the features. So starting to put in the eyes and some other construction lines that are really going to denote where we're going to start our nose and also our mouth, okay?